An anime live-action adaptation.
It looks like
An anime live-action adaptation.
but do you think
Several creative liberties and no knowledge of the original source material.
it's not? Still, we should run like it is!
A horrible anime live-action adaptation.
Though it isn't.
Anime live-action movies had a, not the best public relationship. The moment you even mention the idea of a beloved anime series being adapted to the big screen, everyone will riot. And to be honest, I can't even blame them. I mean, a live-action Your Name by J.J. Abrams? Whose idea was it? It's not even taking place in Japan anymore, for fuck's sake! Hollywood has been attempting to put anime on the big screen and it has never really worked. Not even the Japanese can do this well. Everything changed, however, when James Cameron, yes, that James Cameron, finally made an anime adaptation that does not suck. Alita Battle Angel is a long time coming. It is a movie that actually gave a damn of its original source material. It was so good that of course it's not doing well with critics. While Alita Battle Angel served an important role of taking the right step into anime live actions, there is actually another one. One that many overlooked due to the lack of fame. One that most likely was the first ever anime live action that worked. Space Battleship Yamato is a 2010 Japanese science fiction movie made by TBS. It's a live-action adaptation of Space Battleship Yamato by Leiji Matsumoto and Yoshinobu Nishizaki. The film was released in Japan on December 1st, 2010, and an American release was followed in June 24, 2011. This movie was extremely ambitious in Japan. It was the first ever Japanese film to have a heavy use of CGI, almost comparable to Avatar. Looking at the box office, I do consider this movie a win, but I bet you all wonder, how good is it? Well, let's find out. In order to understand what made Space Battleship Yamato work, we need to look at what made anime live actions fail overall. The primary thing that made anime so great is that, well, it's animated. Because of this, the creators can take advantage of this and create insane things like action fights, facial expressions, special abilities, alien characters, and food. Sweet, delicious food. This is not helping. Animation allows control over each individual frame, meaning making anything in animation is theoretically possible. But what is animated does not mean it can translate well into the third dimension. Animation has the advantage to be, well, animated. It can create the most bizarre of things, but trying to recreate these things into real life would look out of place or just weird overall. That is one out of many things filmmakers often fail to understand. Not everything in drawing can be translated into reality. There are only a few animes out there where the art style and story can be translated into the third dimension, and even when they do understand this concept, the movie flops anyway. But Space Battleship Yamato is an anime that can be translated into the third dimension. For the art style, the space fighting, the characters, the plot, and so much more. In fact, when you watch the whole anime, it feels like a shorter and simpler version of Star Wars. Actually, that's exactly what it is. Star Wars was the primary influence for the creation of Space Battleship Yamato, introducing the Japanese to the concept of space opera. It led to creations like Mobile Suit Gundam and Evangelion. The whole concept of Space Battleship Yamato can be made in both live action and animation. So when put into the right hands, the movie can work properly, and it did. Many of the settings, spaceship, characters, and tones, while changed, they are still faithful recreations of the anime counterpart. This directly leads to the second problem with anime live actions. Whenever a character is adopted to the big screen, they will either look so different to the point where you have a hard time believing they're supposed to be someone you love, or they look too similar to the point where they just look like a bunch of cosplayers doing a stupid TikTok skit. But Space Battleship Yamato manages to balance out both sides, where they do resemble their anime counterparts pretty well, while not making themselves look rather silly. Speaking of characters, character management and casting is also another critical point to get right. In many live-action animes made in the West, they sometimes would try to find Asian actors that look nothing like their animated counterparts, or sometimes they would resort to whitewashing. And anime live-actions made in Japan, while many of them do look like their animated counterparts, they often would act rather exaggerated or just trying too hard to be that character. In this movie, however, the casting is near perfect. The main character, Kodai Suzumu, is played by the Japanese legend Takuya Kimura. He's basically the Will Smith of Japan. He portrays Kodai rather faithfully to the anime. Both of them started as a bratty yet idealistic character and became strong leaders in the end. Hell, they do even look similar. And to be honest, Takuya's presence in this movie is maybe the only reason why this movie earned $49 million. Look, just put Kimura in anything and he'll make it good. Takuya, you sexy man. Okay, this is fucking gay. The captain is played by Tsutomu Yamazaki, and he did a pretty good job of portraying the character. He's old yet bold, he is fierce yet empowering, and most importantly, he is not annoying. The character of Daisuke Shima is actually, to me, an improvement over the anime. In the anime, he is somewhat forgettable and even hateable sometimes, but here he is supportive, strong, and loyal to Kodai. You know, like a real friend. Other characters like Sanada, Saito, and Sado are honestly okay. If you ignore the anime for a moment, they are still really solid characters. All of the other side characters are also pretty good. The worst character, however, is our damsel in distress, Yuki Mori. Now, the actress herself, Melza Kurori, is a pretty good actress and is a good pick for this character. However, the problem is not the casting, but it's the writing. I can excuse the fact that she looks nothing like her animated counterpart with her yellow hair and her sexy body and her latex spacesuit and that ass. Oh, that ass! Okay, I gotta stop now, this is too much. All of those things I mentioned earlier are extremely difficult to recreate in real life, so I can excuse that. But what I cannot excuse is her character. In the anime, she starts off as a somewhat bratty and annoying character, but she does have her moments and charms, besides the obvious. But in this movie, she's just a straight up bitch, and I cannot sympathize with that. Even in her redemption arc, I still hate her. In the first 20 minutes of the movie, she's like, "Oh, Kodai, you're such a coward, you abandoned everyone in favor of yourself, I hate you." But then in the next minute, she's like, "Oh, I'm sorry, Kodai, I love you." This bitch is just unbearable, and I hate her. But besides that, I felt the casting here is pretty solid and well done. Oh, what's that? There were the aliens? Oh wait, yeah, I forgot about them, we'll get to them later. Another thing anime live actions fail to understand is how to handle the story. When you write a story for an anime live action, you have two options. One, you can follow the anime bare bone to the script, or two, you can change it so much to the point where it becomes its own terrible thing. No matter which one you choose, neither can actually work properly. On one hand, if you follow everything from the anime, then the results may be hit or miss. Like I said earlier, what is written in animation does not mean it can translate into the third dimension. And I don't mean this just visually. Even things like the writing and the themes of the anime must be translated, and that is easier said than done. On the other hand, if you change the source material so much, can you even say it's the same thing anymore? That is why it's important to know how to balance the two elements to tell a well-translated story. Space Battleship Yamato manages to oversimplify the original story while not being too distant from the original source. The story begins in the year 2199, where humanity is on the verge of extinction. This is the result of a war between humanity and Gamalas, an alien race from a distant planet. While the humans managed to hold the war for over 5 years, the surface of the Earth became uninhabitable from all of the radioactive asteroids sent by the Gamaloths. All hope seems to be lost until one day a mysterious gift known as the Wave Motion Tech was sent from the planet Iskandar. They offer salvation to humanity, saying that they have a device that can reverse the effects of the radiation. So humanity used the Wave Motion technology to build a vessel and set sail on a distant voyage to Iskandar. The vessel was originally made for humanity to find a new home. However, with the Wave Motion Tech, this vessel became a whole new ship. A ship called Space Battleship Yamato. That was the basic plot for both the anime and the live action. And while the changes are rather obvious, it is still rather faithful to the anime. It was put into the hands of a director who understood what made the anime so good, so he did a pretty good job if you ask me. What I personally like about the movie is that unlike other animated live actions where they would tease a possible sequel which will never come, Yamato ended in a way where no sequel will come out of it. It just ends with a happy ending. Some people may find it annoying, but I honestly don't care. However, like every good thing in this world, there are flaws. Mountains of it. And despite how much I like this movie, it is still loaded with it. So let's get to it. The first thing I want to go over with is the characters. While the human characters are mostly handled well, the real problem comes up in the form of the aliens. In the original show, there are two alien factions, the Gamelons and the Iskandars. The Gamelons serve as the enemies, while the Iskandar are the allies. Both of the Gamelons and the Iskandars are still in the movie, but not in the expected way. Let's start off with the Gamelons. In the anime, instead of being a bunch of generic space Nazis thirsting for galactic destruction, but in fact, they are more human-like than we think. They too have emotions, character, motivation, ideologies, and so much more. The creators did this to prove the fact that in a war, there are no real good guys or bad guys. There are just people fighting for what they think is right to them. Hell, the fact that the Gamelons look like humans further bring this point home. Of course, you will never find yourself siding against the humans, but it is strong enough for you to find sympathy with the Gamelons. But in this movie, they are literally just a bunch of space Nazis. The only purpose they serve here is to be an obstacle for the humans. Hell, they don't even speak. All of them are just the same and they have little to no characteristics. The only one that has a semblance of personality is Dessler. In the anime, Dessler is basically the Hitler of the Gamelons. Hell, the Gamelons even call him Zoto, and Zoto can be translated to Führer. But here, he basically served little to nothing. All he did is just to be that stereotypical bad guy. The Iskandarians also suffer from this problem. In the anime, while they are more than willing to help the humans, they also question the motivation for humanity, for in their eyes, they are no different from the Gamelons. But here, they are like, I don't care, take it and go. With this, the story becomes basic and oversimplified. While this may be a good thing for newcomers, but for me, it felt half-assed and, hell, even lazy. This leads me to the other problem, and that is the story. While the movie is over 2 hours long and there are no plans for a sequel, the story still left a lot to be desired. For one, while this movie is over 2 hours long, there's only so much you can do with that time. Many awesome things from the anime, like the Battle of Pluto and General Gomer, has been completely cut off. The only reason I think they did this is because they don't want the movie to be too long. Hell, this could also be the reason why the anime is so downplayed. Another problem with the story is the tone. On one hand, we have this. But on the other, we have this. This movie has a habit of dragging out all of the emotional parts. Sometimes I feel they just drag it on for too long. Hell, I feel that if they could just cut off some of these parts, they could have added more stuff into the movie. A good example of this is the final act of the movie. When the humans manage to destroy the Gamelons, they return home to deliver salvation. That is until Dessler shows up. What remains of the Gamelons wants to nuke Earth for revenge. Kodai is running out of options. Many of their weapons are either too damaged or too weak to put off a good fight. And their most powerful weapon, the Wave Motion Cannon, has been blocked off from the previous battle. if they were to fire the weapon with the muzzle blocked, the whole ship will blow up and everyone will die. The pressure is on, time is limited, and Kodai needs a solution fast. Soon, Kodai has a plan. He tells everyone to evacuate the ship. He will steer the ship into the enemy, fire the wave motion cannon, and taking down everything with him, including the gamelons. This is honestly a great way to wrap up his character, and it has a lot of emotions and tension building up to it. I even say it was good. Until I remembered this thing existed. While everyone was leaving the ship, Yuki chose to stay, but Kodai wants her to leave. This scene would have been fine if it weren't for the fact that it drags for over 5 minutes. Like seriously, I know this is the last time you two will see each other, but an alien race is about to nuke Earth. You know, I'm even more surprised that during this time, the gamelons haven't even nuked Earth yet. Guys, I know you're sad and all, but Earth is gonna blow up! Hurry the hell up! Look, just say your final words, confess to one another, give one last kiss, leave the ship, ram the enemy, and pull the trigger. All of those steps don't require 5 minutes, damn it! Okay, I know calling this movie the first ever anime live-action movie that worked is a bit of a stretch, and I believe there are other anime live-action movies that worked before it, but I do have my reasons for it. First of all, if you ignore the existence of the anime and watch this movie, it can still hold up on its own. Very few anime live-action movies can actually do this very well, so seeing this is actually a big accomplishment. Second of all, this movie somehow gained a higher score than Ghost in the Shell on Rotten Tomatoes. Seriously, how is that possible? Ghost in the Shell have a budget of 110 million USD, while Space Battleship Yamato have only 20 million USD of a budget. Sure, the difference may be not that big, but the fact that a movie done by a bunch of professionals with a higher budget somehow gained an equal score with a low budget movie is somewhat of a ridiculous concept, don't you think so? And lastly, this movie was a major leap for the Japanese filming industry. Like I said earlier, this was the first ever Japanese movie to have a heavy reliance on CGI, and you can imagine how hard was it for the Japanese to handle such change. Back then, everything was done practically, for computer effects was not that advanced in Japan. So Space Battleship Yamato marked a new beginning for Japanese movies, with the power of CGI. That was something big for the Japanese to handle, but it was all paid off at the end. The box office managed to earn double of the initial budget, and many Japanese movies has the courage to use CGI. While CGI has been used before Yamato was made, it was clear that Yamato marked the turning point of Japanese movies, and it has never looked back since. Now I know what you're all thinking. The movie was good, the box office blew up, and it's something the Japanese are proud of, but why should I care? Well, consider this. It was no secret that to this day, anime live-action movies has been not so good. But if you look hard enough, there are indeed live-action movies that do work. Most of them are hardly even noticeable, and Space Battleship Yamato is definitely one of them. But the fact that anime live-action movies are still deemed to be nothing but box office failures and bust to the nuts for anime fans is a bit worrying to me. I'm not saying that every anime live-action movie is good, but I'm just trying to say that if you look hard enough, there is a silver lining with anime live-action movies, and I can only hope future live-action movies will not suck. But until then, if you guys are sick of all these live-action abominations that do nothing but ruin your childhood, then Space Battleship Yamato may be a breath of fresh air for you. This movie is dangerously underappreciated, and that goes for what it stood for. To me, this movie was so good, I even went ahead and bought the Blu-ray copy of it. Of course, I don't expect everyone to like it, but give it a shot and maybe you'll not be that disappointed. So give this movie a shot. And if you have already watched it, let me know what you think about it. But until then, see you guys in the next video, and here's for a good future for anime live action movies.